Roger Stone here. Every day you wait, your money loses value, but gold and silver don't follow those same rules. American Sovereign Bullion gives you access to a nationwide wholesaler network, helping you secure aggressive pricing on real physical metals. Call 844-272-2428 now to get your free gold and silver guide to learn how to protect your wealth with physical gold and silver, delivered right to your door or with a gold IRA. Visit asbgold.com. That's asbgold.com for your free gold and silver guide today.
The Larry Kudlow Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we welcome back to the show General Jack Keane, who is a great man, by the way, and has taught me so much down through the years, particularly in this war, but not only this war. In any event, he is the chairman of the Institute for the Study of War. He's Fox News senior strategic analyst. He is a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient. I was in the room when he got it, and it's wonderful to have you back, General Keane. You probably saw our Peter Doocy, Fox News Peter Doocy, talking to President Trump yesterday about the latest Iranian proposal, which Mr. Trump has rejected. And Doocy says, Trump says, do we want to go and just blast the hell out of him and finish him forever, or do we want to try to make a deal? I mean, those are the options. This is President Trump. And Peter Doocy says, do you want to go blast the hell out of them? And the president says, I prefer not, on a human basis, prefer not, but that's the option. And he says, they're a very disjointed unit ship, very disjointed. One group wants to make a certain deal. The other group wants to make a certain deal, including the hardliners, et cetera, et cetera. We know that the CENTCOM presented various options. It just seems, General Keane, that they're going to take your advice and resume and finish the military combat operations. I'm wondering if you see it the same way.
Yeah, I pretty much do. I think where this regime is, they're not going to be able to make a deal that would be acceptable to the president. The people who are running the regime now, Larry, are very much in the previous ilk of Khamenei, who ran the regime for years. And obviously that's the Ayatollah, and we killed him outright. He was never making any consequential deal with us. And obviously back in 2015, he did make a deal with Obama, but we all know what that was like. That was very favorable to the Iranians. Trump would never make a deal like that. And the IRGC leadership, which is now truly running Iran, they're not going to make that kind of a deal. So their emissaries come out and talk to our negotiators, and they have promises of making concessions, but then when it really gets down to actually making the concession, they don't do it. And so what's really happening here? And you see it. I mean, you've talked about it. They shut down the Straits of Hormuz for what reason? They did that to see if President Trump would stop the war based on the political economic pressure. He did that. And he wanted to go into negotiations to achieve an end. And I understand that. I think it would have been better, frankly, to continue to pursue the war. But he wanted to at least try that. So we're 3 weeks into this now. And they, in a sense, believe this is kind of working for them because we set a 2-week deadline, and they really wanted to go past that. And by offering some hope that there would be a settlement in terms of negotiations, we continue to do that. We extended it a week, and now we're at the indefinite stage. But I think President Trump is at the point where he's exhausted all of the realistic opportunities to make a deal. And I applaud him for persevering and wanting to do that as his objective. And he would much rather get them to surrender everything to us rather than to have to physically destroy everything. That's kind of the choice, I think, that he's making. But now we're at a point, Larry, where there is not going to be a deal. He sees that, understands that. And we're likely seeing the commencement of some kind of military operations here unless some way, somehow, the IRGC leadership would fold completely. And I really don't see that. I mean, those people who are advising the president that just stick with the blockade, Mr. President, because eventually they will face economic collapse. And that is true. I don't dispute those facts. But what they have to understand is the IRGC leadership is absolutely committed to one objective, surviving as a regime and as leaders of that regime. They will let their people suffer for weeks and months in terms of serious economic peril, with electricity going out, gas lines, food shortages, you name it. They will put their people through that hell so that they can survive and not make a deal. So where I think we are on a path here where return of some military activity and maybe full-thrusted military activity as well. And I think the sooner we get at that, Larry, the better, because we can finish it in a couple of weeks and begin to so undermine this regime that it will likely eventually fracture and fall apart. I also think one other thing we should be doing is the CIA and the Mossad should be working covertly, in earnest, to undermine the regime and to assist the Iranian people. The military here is handling the kinetic side of it. That piece is more appropriately in their hands. And I think that work should be done every single day. And it would also give the Iranian people hope. After this regime is crushed militarily and crushed economically, they will likely be very vulnerable. And so that's another pathway that we should be working on in parallel to the return to military operations.
You know, one of your points is such a great point, and it's hard to understand, but I think you've made us, or you've helped us to understand. The embargo and the blockade is working, including what Scott Besson is doing at the Treasury. I interviewed him last Wednesday. Economic fury along with epic fury. But they don't think the way we think. So whatever the suffering is on the part of Iranian people, ordinary Iranian folks, families, and so forth, they don't care. Their only goal is to stay in power, and they'll do whatever it takes. So the economic decline, economic implosion, it doesn't have the impact it might have here or in a more civilized country or a more civilized government. That's a really important point. You made it. There's a great story in the New York Post, or actually it was probably off of Fox News I'm looking at. Retired top U.S. general says Trump has only one option with Iran, resume bombing. They just don't think the way. They don't care if the economy implodes for ordinary Iranians, do they?
No, and I understand. I mean, we are who we are. We have strong values here. We're reasonable, logic, intelligent people. And so when you look at the Iranian regime and you look at what we're going to do, and listen, what Besson is doing, I absolutely applaud exactly what he's doing. I mean, it is formidable and it is comprehensive. And you add what we're doing in terms of denying them all exports, 100% denial of export by sea. Obviously, they're doing some things by land to compensate, but it's not going to even come close. So, when you look at that, reasonable people would be squeezed so hard that they're going to make a deal. No, that's not who these guys really are. I mean, if you just look at Ahmad Vahidi, if you look at a portrait of this guy, we were talking about it, you and me. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy looks evil. And the reason why he looks evil is because he is evil. He doesn't look at life and values the way we do. And you can't look at these regime leaders through that prism. You got to look at it from their perspective. And that's why in our intelligence service, so our audience understands, they represent like a red team, we call it in the military. And they try to think and portray what the enemy is doing and what would the enemy do to us and what are they thinking? What are the values that are driving them to come to this conclusion? And that's why intelligence services are so valuable in assisting decision makers to make the right calls here. And that's what you and I are trying to do here. Think in the terms of their value system. What is really important to them? I mean, my God, we're not publicizing it, but they are hanging people every single day. Their political opponents. And all they did, they demonstrated against them. Did they take up arms against them? No. What did they do? They stood in a street with other people. That's all they did. And they're systematically hanging them every single day, in addition to the 30,000 that they mowed down in the streets. These guys haven't changed one iota, and they're not capable of making a change.
What I gather, and we don't know with certainty what the latest Iranian offer was, quote-unquote Iranian offer, but what I gather from various reports and a couple of contacts, they don't want to really definitively give up their nuclear capabilities. They're hanging on to that. I mean, they're trying to make some kind of deal with respect to the blockade and or reopening the Strait of Hormuz. But when it comes to the nuclear part of it, it's all very vague, and they want to discuss a discussion. I mean, it's typical Iranian, they string you along forever, as you pointed out many times. They're not giving up their nukes. They're not giving up their enriched uranium either. I mean, so I think that is what is blocking President Trump from accepting any offer at all, or sending people back to Islamabad, whatever it is, 15 hours on the airplane. They're not even on the same page as we are with respect to the nuclear threat. And that's the essence of this whole thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Again, for our audience to understand, it's not just having the nuclear weapon. It's having a capability close enough to have it in their desire. They believe that just even the threat of having that nuclear weapon gives them leverage in the region, and the evidence supports that conclusion. Think of this: the Arab states, most of the Arab states, except for the UAE and Qatar, did not respond after they have been attacked hundreds of times and had people killed. They still haven't responded. And why is that? If you ask them to this day, if they would actually be honest with us, why haven't you gone against this regime? Because they still believe at the end of the day, if the regime survives, the regime is going to have leverage against them. And it's extraordinary what they've been able to do and influence with just having the threat they will eventually have a nuclear weapon. They knew if they had a nuclear weapon, they believe it would guarantee the preservation of the regime. Saddam Hussein, if he had a nuclear weapon, no war. They watched Gaddafi give up nuclear weapons because he was afraid of a war, and that was the reality of that. So that's why it's so important to them, because it's tied to the preservation of the regime, and even short of having the weapon, they have proven for many decades that just in the pursuit of a nuclear weapon and being close to it gives them huge geopolitical influence in the region. So that is why that is on the table, and they want what? They want enrichment and the capability to continue enrichment. They'll say, well, we want to have it just for civil nuclear purposes. You know that's a bold-faced lie. They have one nuclear power plant. They could have had 20 by now if they wanted it. They want to be able to go from a little enriched uranium to a lot, so you can make a weapon at a time of their choosing. The other deal is there are Arab countries that have nuclear power, but what happens is we don't permit them to enrich the uranium themselves. They have to get it from another source, so they don't develop the capabilities to enrich uranium, which could lead to a nuclear weapon and then proliferation of nuclear weapons in the region. So our audience, one more time, understands the reason why this is so dangerous. It's not just Iran getting a nuclear weapon. It would mean almost immediately that the Arab states would go get nuclear weapons. Some of it they would make themselves. Some of it they would just get the capability from Pakistan, and very quickly with their resources, we would see proliferation of nuclear weapons in the region. Henry Kissinger said to me more than once, he said, Jack, listen, the most dangerous issue I've ever had to face in our country today. He was no longer a government official, but as the world's diplomat. He said it's not the calamity of World War II, which I was physically present for. It's the fact that if nuclear weapons proliferated the Middle East, it is almost a guarantee that we would see the first nuclear exchange in the history of mankind. And the reason would be because Iran would be willing to use it. And that is the danger and why President Trump is putting his foot down and say, never, never, never is it going to happen.
Let Century Management Solutions get you to your next medical appointment. They specialize in non-emergency medical transportation, connecting patients to care, safety, reliability, and on time. Their advanced technology platform seamlessly coordinates patients, healthcare providers, insurers, and transportation partners all in one powerful network. With over 200 trusted transportation providers, they deliver scalable solutions backed by real-time tracking and complete transparency. Go to SENTRYMS.com.
We continue our discussion with General Jack Keane, who is the Fox News senior strategic analyst. General Keane, I wanted to raise the issue. A lot of people are saying the biggest priority we have is reopening the Strait of Hormuz. But that's a different perspective than the one you're offering, which is to complete the military exercises, if you will. Which is more important, reopening the strait or completing the military planning?
Well, I think they're both important. You've got to do both of them to accomplish the objective. You know, we knew from the beginning the enemy takes a vote when you go to war, and they're always going to do things. In this case, we expected them to close the Straits of Hormuz. It was just when. So if they shut it down, and obviously they have, we have to open it. It is a priority, and we have to finish all the other things that are on our target list to be able to accomplish the assigned missions. So this is a step the enemy took, and we have to deal with it. Whether we do Straits of Hormuz first or begin combat operations and do Straits of Hormuz towards the end, I don't think that we can do them simultaneously because of the amount of resources that the Straits of Hormuz would require itself and all the targets that we have. So I just see it as a continuous pattern. If we start with combat operations, we'll likely open the Straits after. If we start with the Straits of Hormuz, then it'll continue after we open it up right into combat operations. One way or the other, Larry, we've got to do both.
It's hard to understand. I mean, I was always an advocate of reopening the strait, but as I look at what's happened over the past 3 weeks during this ceasefire, which is almost endless ceasefire, I just don't see it where we're going. It seems a bit aimless to me. I know the president in his heart would love to make some kind of deal or arrangement, but, you know, even on that score, he's not going to make a bad deal, as you say many times, and I agree. I know him very well, but I think it can't be done. We cannot make a deal with them until we hurt them even more. And I don't know how far that goes. It's a military decision to a large extent, hurting them more. But it just seems to me something's got to give here, and that's why I'm speculating that very soon we'll return to combat operations.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're right on the cusp of it, I suspect, because our patience, likely the patience of our negotiator hasn't given up, but I think the patience, and I don't really know, but I think the patience of our president has, and he sees through this certainly, and it was well intentioned on his part to try something like this, but we're 3+ weeks into this, and we don't have any prospect of actually making a consequential deal here. Quite the contrary, they're right back where they always were. And that is, they want to preserve the capability to have a nuclear weapon. And that's, in their minds, that is not really negotiable. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. The pathway we are on is returning to military operations, either full out and then the Straits of Hormuz or Straits of Hormuz first. We'll see what path is chosen here. And then we have to deal with Carg Allen. Carg Allen, for our audience to understand, is what we're essentially blocking right now. Out of Carg Allen comes all of Iran's oil distribution. That's where the tankers load up. We're also blocking all the cargo ships coming out of other ports.
Yeah.
Do we destroy Carg Allen and its capabilities at some point? That is another decision for the president to make.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll leave it there. General Jack Keane, thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. We'll see you Monday, hopefully, in New York. Folks, we take a break. I'm Kudlow. On the other side, we're going to do some economic work with John Carney and Phil Kerpen and others. Stay with us, please. Lots more cooking.
The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Sacco and Felix, New York and New Jersey's premier attorneys at law. Their team brings decades of experience across a wide range of practice areas. Whatever life brings, they're your legal team. From everyday matters to complex cases, they've got you covered with the experience you need and the results you want. Because when life gets complicated, they make it simple. SaccoFilas.com. SACCOFILLAS.com. 2 C's, 2 L's.